Chapter 19. Triangulation, when conflict expands through the family system. Estrangement rarely remains between two people. What begins as tension between you and your child slowly extends outward, pulling in partners, siblings, step-parents, relatives, therapists, friends, and entire emotional ecosystems. This is triangulation. Triangulation is the invisible mechanism that turns a fractured relationship into a fractured family. It is the way one person's conflict becomes everyone's conflict. It is how your child's pain becomes the family's shared tension. It is the silent force that reshapes loyalties, alters perceptions, and reassigns roles without a single person announcing it aloud. This chapter unpacks how triangulation works, why it is so common in estrangement, and why it can feel impossible to stop. The core of triangulation. Pain seeks a third person. In family systems, emotional discomfort rarely stays contained. When two people experience tension, one of them instinctively pulls in a third person to help regulate their anxiety. Your estranged child feeling conflicted, overwhelmed, guilty, resentful, confused, pressured, uncertain, emotionally influenced, turns to someone else to help regulate their feelings about you. That person becomes the third point in the triangle. Then that third person begins influencing the child's perception of you. This is how triangulation begins. A relationship with tension becomes a triangle with an agenda. The third person gains power. Once your child recruits someone else, a partner, step-parent, friend, or therapist, that person becomes the confidant, the interpreter, the validator, the emotional authority, the voice of reason, the memory clarifier, the one who decodes your actions, the one who helps make sense of the past, the one who provides the emotional safety your child now believes you never gave. This third person gains disproportionate power in shaping the narrative, even if they are misinformed or biased or projecting their own history onto your family. Your child now sees the past through the eyes of the triangle, and you lose your rightful position in your child's emotional world. Triangulation becomes loyalty testing. As triangulation deepens, your child unconsciously begins using others to validate the new narrative. It may look like, "Do you see what I mean about my parent?" You get it, right? They've always been like this. Doesn't this sound toxic? I can't believe they did that. You understand my pain better than they ever did. The third person must agree to maintain closeness with your child. Disagreement feels dangerous, so the triangle solidifies. People begin aligning with your child, not because they believe every detail, but because emotional loyalty becomes required. The partner becomes the co-author of the narrative. In many estrangements, triangulation elevates the partner's influence to unprecedented levels. Partners may reinterpret your actions, tell your child what they think you meant, weaponize your imperfections, echo online psychological terms, translate normal conflicts into emotional injury, express their own wounds as if they were your child's, project their trauma onto your relationship, reinforce the narrative at every conflict. Congratulate your child for creating distance. Over time, your child's narrative and the partner's narrative merge into a single story. This is why estranged parents often say, "I hear their partner speaking through them." You are not imagining it. Triangulation makes the partner a co-author of the rewritten past. Triangulation pulls in siblings. Even when they don't want to be involved, siblings often become the unwilling audience for the estranged child's narrative. They hear retold stories, exaggerated hurts, selective memories, accusations, interpretations, grievances. They may not fully agree, but the emotional pressure to remain supportive can cause them to nod along or remain silent. Silence becomes validation. Validation becomes alignment. Alignment becomes participation. This is how triangulation spreads from one child to multiple children. It reshapes the sibling dynamic and divides the family without a single direct confrontation. Triangulation turns you into a symbol, not a person. In the triangle, you stop being seen as human, nuanced, imperfect, but loving. A parent with context, a person with your own history. You become a symbol, you become the antagonist, the problem, the obstacle, the source of pain, the one to blame, the one who doesn't understand. This symbolic representation of you gets repeated and reinforced through every direction of the triangle. Soon, people begin reacting to the symbolic version of you, not the real one. You become an emotional placeholder for every unresolved wound. In the triangle, the more people who join the triangle, the stronger the narrative becomes. Triangulation rarely stops at 3. It often expands to partners, step-parents, friends, siblings, in-laws, grandparents, therapists, online communities, support groups. Each additional person adds emotional weight to the narrative. The triangle becomes a web. The web becomes a system. The system becomes a belief structure. This is why trying to correct the narrative often feels impossible. You are not arguing with one person. You are arguing with an entire ecosystem. Your child begins using others as shields. In triangulated systems, your child may speak through others, hide behind the partner's opinions, filter communication through a spouse, rely on therapists to justify distancing, use siblings as buffers, communicate only through intermediaries, block direct contact, allow others to influence decisions, expect you to conform to group expectations. The more triangulated the system becomes, the less access you have to your child's unfiltered voice. Your communication becomes indirect, fragmented, guarded, and deeply distorted by third parties. Why triangulation feels like manipulation, but isn't always intentional. Triangulation can look manipulative. Sometimes it is, but often it is unconscious, emotional, protective, reactive, a coping mechanism, a way to avoid conflict, a strategy for managing anxiety, something your child learned from others. Your child is not intentionally orchestrating a war. They are trying to survive emotional tension by pulling others into it. Triangulation is their attempt to regulate feelings they do not know how to process. This does not erase the harm, but it explains the process. Why triangulation hurts more than direct conflict. Direct conflict is clear, it is loud, it is honest, it has an endpoint. Triangulation is none of those things. Triangulation is covert, confusing, exhausting, destabilizing, disorienting, humiliating, emotionally chaotic, impossible to confront directly. You cannot defend yourself to people you don't even know. Are being influenced, you cannot correct misrepresentations that are never said to your face. You cannot fix a narrative being shaped in conversations you're not present for. You cannot repair a relationship filtered through intermediaries. Triangulation leaves you fighting a war without knowing where the battle lines are drawn. Why this chapter matters. Triangulation is one of the central engines of estrangement. It explains how conflicts grow, why narratives spread, why families divide, why siblings shift, why partners become powerful, why step-parents gain influence, why your child's certainty increases, why your access to your child decreases, why repairing the relationship feels impossible, why you feel erased from your own story. Triangulation is not evidence of your failure. It is evidence of the emotional system your child has entered. Understanding this frees you from believing that you lost your child. Because you did something wrong, you didn't. You lost them. To a system of influence, anxiety, loyalty, and narrative pressure that became bigger than you. The next chapter explores the consequences. What happens when triangulation leads to full emotional cutoff? And the severing becomes deeper than distance. If this content resonated with you, you're welcome to like and subscribe to Depth of the Quiet. This is a space you can return to whenever you need steadiness. Whether that's during a quiet afternoon or at 2 a.m., when your thoughts feel heavy and sleep feels far away. If you feel comfortable, you're invited to share your reflections, questions, or experiences in the comments. Your voice may offer comfort to another parent walking a similar path. And if today isn't a day for interaction, that's completely okay too. There's never any pressure here, only support, understanding, and the freedom to heal at your own pace. You are always welcome in this space. If you would like to go deeper, you can explore Depth of the Quiet by Latina Venus Sidorov, available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon. For spouses and partners supporting an estranged parent, Standing Beside the Broken by Stas Sidorov, available on Amazon. Thank you for spending this time here. Take care of yourself gently.